Do you want to help your child make healthy choices and stay away from drugs? The answer isn't just telling them what to do, it's showing them how to live. Today, we're talking about being a positive role model because your actions speak louder than words. Parents and caregivers are the first line of defense. Hi, I'm Aaron, and welcome back to Talk Before They Try, brought to you by the Kent County Health Department. This is episode 4, and if you haven't seen our first 3 episodes, pause here and check them out. We've covered a variety of important topics that will help you teach your child skills to help them resist drug use, all while helping you form a stronger relationship. Today, we're diving into how you can be a positive role model to guide your child's choices and prevent drug use. Stick around for an interview with Cole Williams, CEO and founder of Cole Speaks. He's going to be sharing his professional and personal insights on being a good role model. Here's a quote from James Baldwin about how our kids are always watching us. Children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they've never failed to imitate them. Let's take a minute to think back to when you were 12 or 13. Who was your role model in your life? A parent? A teacher? A coach? What did they do that you admired? Maybe they stayed calm or worked hard. How did their actions shape your choices? Those role models influenced you, and right now, you're the biggest influence in your child's life. Why does role modeling matter? Children learn by watching us. When parents model healthy behaviors, children are more likely to make safe choices and avoid drugs. Here are 3 really important factors when we talk about role modeling. First, actions. Your habits show what's important. Second, values. Your choices reflect what you believe. And third, connection. Modeling builds trust and respect. Your child notices everything you do, even when you think they're not watching. Maybe you've caught them copying your habits, good or bad. If you handle stress with alcohol or skip self-care, they might think that's normal. The good news? You can model healthy choices starting today. Here are 3 ways to be a positive role model. Number 1, model healthy behaviors. Show how you avoid drugs, like saying, I don't drink or vape. I don't like the way that it could affect my health. Number 2, practice self-care. Exercise, eat well, or take breaks and say, I'm doing this to stay healthy. Number 3, communicate openly. Share your values and say things like, I work hard to make decisions that prioritize my children because family matters. Try this at home. Pick one healthy habit, like going for a walk. Invite your child to join you and say, this helps me feel good. Talk about why it matters. Do it twice this week. Here's another conversation starter. I try to make healthy choices because they matter to me. What's one healthy thing you like to do? We've got a question from a parent about role modeling. I'm not perfect, and I worry my mistakes will mess up my child. How can I still be a good role model? Great question. Nobody's perfect. Own your mistakes by saying something like, I got upset, but I'm working on staying calm. Show your child how you grow, and they'll learn from your effort. Now let's hear from Cole Williams, CEO and founder of Cole Speaks. Cole works to inspire parents and young people every day.
So, my years of experience working alongside youth and families have been closely connected to my work being involved in the juvenile justice system, as well as being involved in our child welfare community mental health systems. And one of the things that I could highly speak to is the power of role modeling, not only just for the youth, but also for parents. I think quite oftentimes than not, the parenting script sometimes get in the way of how we show up as parents. Having raised 8 sons through the child welfare system, myself and having a child of my own as a teen father, I could tell you there were so many instances and times where my own parenting narrative got in the way of my ability to really see my children for who they really were. I didn't often have, I would say, a model that went beyond the model that I had growing up as a child. And so many of the things that I've learned about supporting parents, when we talk about the question of like, how did you learn how to parent? Most parents say, I learned by way of watching my own parents or experiencing my parents' decision making as it relates to their child rearing. And so I would say modeling is the key. I think quite oftentimes and not many parents are in need of support of just, resources that is centered around how to what are best practices for parenting. Of course, we know there's a plethora, but I think oftentimes than not, we sort of pick up what we know and then we discard what we don't like. And I think sometimes our children can be affected by that. And I also have learned that from my own experience too, we tend to parent out of our own parenting wounds. And so my fear got in the way of whether or not I believed that my children were participating in drug usage or anything that was outside of what I believed my children would be engaged in. And I also thought that if my children were engaged in any high risk behaviors, that I would be the first person that they would talk to. And I soon discovered that my sons would say, Dad, you would be the last person I would talk to because you get upset about some of the smallest things, at least in their mind, that there would be no way that they could talk to me about some of those really heavy topics. And so one of the things I just tell parents when it comes to role modeling, we want to be able to connect with our children. So the more time you have to connect with them, the better opportunity you have to engage in some of those building blocks when it comes to supporting your kids with drugs and alcohol.
What's one way parents can model positive behavior to build trust with their teens?
I would say one way of building trust with a teenager for parents is really just to meet teens where they are. I think we have so many expectations on teenagers, which isn't a bad thing, right? But I think oftentimes than not, those expectations get in the way of our ability to really connect with our teens. And so I think finding any opportunity to engage with them, even when their behavior is telling us they don't want to engage with us, it really is important to recognize that behavior is a language. But in order to really hear our kids, we have to be connected to them, whether it's a simple ride in the vehicle, whether it's at home preparing for breakfast, or just texting back and forth. I think the more opportunities that we can connect with our kids, the better.
How can parents who've made mistakes in the past, like struggling with their own challenges, still be effective role models?
One of the things that's so key to know that parents can make a bunch of mistakes and still be a role model because one of the things that our kids are recognizing is that they know that we're human. I think sometimes the parenting narrative that most parents have is that they often feel like they have to be perfect. The society that we live in conditions us to believe that we have to have these certain things or be these certain ways to be effective, but our kids know you aren't perfect, and so they know you make mistakes. I think it's just important for parents to recognize that it's okay to make a mistake, and it's okay to trust that your teen, if making a mistake in front of them, will forgive you and continue to walk alongside you. And I think that same sentiment needs to be echoed. And when we think about the relationship between parents and teens, and that some of the things that our teens give us as it relates to grace are some of the same practices we need to model for them. And so I think you can make tons of mistakes and teenagers will still show up to support you and love you because they understand that they get a chance to see you being human. If you're not making a mistake in a relationship, then you don't really have a relationship. What I help parents recognize is that your teen is a relationship. It is a relationship. And so any relationship worth having requires all of the things that come alongside that. And so if we can see that more of a relationship than a hierarchy of a parent authority versus teens, it isn't a versus, it's a connection and a relationship.
You've worked with young people from a lot of different backgrounds. What's a common trait you see in teens who have strong role models at home?
The common trait that I see in teens who have strong role models at home is that, you know what, they often feel supported, they're often extremely resilient. Their ability to problem solve and make decisions are closely connected to those relationships that they have with those loving, supportive adults. And so, again, for me, you want to know whether a kid, and most, if not all kids, are resilient, right? But I think the ability to be able to bounce back from some of those hardships and challenges, you'll see it a lot faster when you are connected to teenagers who have loving and supportive adults along the way who care for them.
What's a practical tip for parents to start modeling healthy habits with their kids today?
I would say one of the practical tips that I have learned is that behavior is a language. And one of the best things you can do when you have a teenager that is struggling is that you don't want to disconnect, you want to connect. And one of the best ways you do that is become a behavior detective. It took me a long time to recognize that a behavior detective does a lot of things, but we do it from the standpoint of when children are babies and infants and toddlers when they don't have the emotional vocabulary or the language to communicate with us, we find ways to figure out how to solve the problem. So if we have a baby that's crying, one of the things that most parents do is they have a plethora of ideas and concepts to try to figure out how to support this baby to soothe the child. And so they may walk the child, they may feed the child, they may burp the child, they may change the child, they may put the child in a vehicle and drive around, they may play music. But when teenagers find themselves acting out, oftentimes we don't typically have an array of resources that we go to in the very same way that we use when we have a toddler or infant. I would just say it really is oftentimes that teenagers don't have the answers. And so one of the best things that we can do is be behavior detectives by really trying to discover what's the behavior telling us and not taking things personal. I think once I learned that my children were not personally attacking me, but they were teenagers trying to figure it out, and when they didn't have the answers through their behavior, it was really important for me to set some boundaries, had some self-care for myself so that when they showed up dysregulated, I wasn't dysregulated with them and that I could support them by understanding what their behavior is telling me and then trying to stay engaged versus disengaging with them. We don't have to match their fire. We can be the calm in that storm. So I think those are a couple of tips that I would say for parents when you're having teenagers who are just trying to figure out and find their own identity in their own way.
Thanks, Cole, for those awesome answers. Those tips will help us lead by example. In our next episode, we'll explore using appropriate and consistent discipline to set boundaries for your child. If you're finding value in Talk Before They Try, join us for the rest of the series. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment about a time you noticed your child copying something you did, good or bad. Please do us a favor, answer our short survey to help us improve our future videos. The link is found in the description. Thanks for joining us for Talk Before They Try, and remember, parents are the first line of defense.